Hey, welcome to the Nurturing Room podcast. If you're looking for part 2 of the trying episode, then you are in the right place. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you should go back and listen to part 1, as this is the second part. So, welcome back to the Nurturing Room. Let's get started.
Welcome to Season 1 of the Nurturing Room podcast, where we talk about our journey of infertility with the goal of helping to facilitate healing, hope, and to help others to not suffer in silence.
But back to me going to the doctor that Emily really liked, that I had really enjoyed going and talking to. One thing he suggested was, not at the very beginning, but he was saying at a point, I should go to the doctor as well.
After we checked.
We checked. So I think that's one thing that you might get from a doctor, is that there's simple things that they can kind of run through with, like Emily first, and then can recommend that I go also, since you're investigating everything. So I went to a local urologist. I mean, I had never been to a urologist before.
Typically for old men with bathroom issues.
Yeah, like there wasn't really that many people there under like 40, 50 maybe. I'd
say even older.
Maybe older.
Yeah.
But I went, I guess they did the typical urology stuff they do at a urologist appointment. Again, I had never been, but left from that, didn't really have anything to take away from that. I mean, they check for what all that they can. I can't remember if it was from that urologist or from even the doctor that you were going to. He was the one that was kind of driving the car, kind of, so to speak, of like what we should do.
Yeah. So
after doing that, he kind of suggested some more testing, and then also he recommended another urologist to go to.
Yeah.
So we went to this other urologist, drove 50 minutes to an hour away. And when we got there, it wasn't the most helpful experience. And
he's being rather nice right now.
Yeah. So we get there. He kind of goes over, one, he was really going to start kind of going through all the stuff the other urologist kind of was going through. I was like, we already kind of got that stuff established, that baseline stuff. And then he had me go and do blood work. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of the area where I just start to kind of check out, because while we're doing the blood work, it's in his office, which is like, waiting room, a few patient rooms. And then he's doing the blood work, and then, he's not doing it. The nurse or whoever's
you were
doing
getting blood work in the hallway.
Yeah, I was getting blood work in the hallway, kind of almost like this little cutout kind of thing, I guess. But as I'm there, and this guy wasn't like the quietest guy, but he's like yelling. It felt like down the hall, like my medical stuff, and
he started by saying it in his office, and then he walks into the hallway where you're getting your blood work.
Yeah.
And starts giving your history to the whole office.
Just giving all my history out in the office. And then, not the not so great part, but he then kind of starts to go into some of the results. Mm-hmm. And like his interpretations of the things, and then goes into kind of this conversation of just kind of like, like it seems like, maybe it could be hard, like for you guys to conceive. And again, this is out in the hallway essentially. And at this point, I'm just like, okay, like.
He said most likely you guys not only would not be able to conceive, but even with IVF or any help in that way, it probably wouldn't happen. Just open.
Yeah, so
to the public.
He kind of goes down this kind of tangent of this, and then immediately he starts trying to recommend like certain like procedures, and of course it's the stuff that he would do at his office, and throwing out the figures of how much stuff it's costing, not giving any information to, okay, what does this mean? Like what
or
exactly?
how we got to that point.
Yeah, how do we get to this point? And I think for me, this is the point where I kind of just shut it all out.
Yeah.
And it didn't really feel like he was trying to help, but more so he was trying to provide a service that he could get paid.
Yeah. And I, just being honest, I was kind of heartbroken and terrified, but I mean, this man would not look at Tony in the eye. He would only talk to me. He would check Tony and, you know, whatever, but like he would only look at me when he's talking about Tony's health history and like major things that will affect our future. And so in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if the guy is prejudiced or racist. I don't know where he's at, but like, if a man can't look at another man and have a conversation with him in private, like, I don't know. I was just really concerned. And so I was like, you can't talk to him. And now you want to cut on him? No, it's not going to happen.
But this frustration towards this person isn't what this is about. Yeah. So kind of back to the reality of that situation. It was hard to hear that information. And it was also a lot of things kind of were happening. And also at the same time, nothing was happening mentally. So as soon as he was trying to do a procedure, didn't really know what he was talking about. It was pretty much, I was like, you know, it's okay. I'm not really interested in that. And we left. We checked out and we left. More so, we checked out of the office. Mm-hmm. But really what happened is when we walked out of the door, in my own heart, that was when, I didn't say this out loud, but for me, I walked out the door and said, like, I'm done. Like this is it. That was it. This is over. Yeah. And I remember what it looked like outside. I remember walking to the car and really feeling just defeated.
Yeah.
And again, the timeline is this was in 2022, and we had been trying since 2017.
Yeah.
So it was that moment that, I was done.
Yeah.
And
that drive home.
Yeah. And maybe I did say that to you. No, maybe I didn't say that to you because I just remember you were just crying.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what to say. Like I was trying to like be encouraging to you. I was trying to encourage myself, but it was just really a weird feeling. I don't know. I don't want to take that time away from you too, because I think a lot was going on with you at that time too.
It's hard thinking back on it again.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, that was really hard because I knew that it was the end of the road for us trying to conceive. And like saying that out loud is just like hard even today. You just like all these years from 2017 trying all these different things, like I think I said this before, but you like hone in on like what the problem is and you're getting to the root of it and you're figuring out what the problem is. You're seeing what I've said before, you're seeing these like little glimmers of hope and everything. And then that moment happens. And even though I did not like that doctor, I think he knows how to read tests. I think he knew kind of maybe what it was. And I think we knew what it was. There was issues on both of our ends. And the likelihood of us having children was very low. And that drive home, it was about 50-minute hour drive. was the longest drive of my life.
Yeah.
I think that I wanted to support you well, and I think that I was so broken, so sad that like I felt like I didn't even know how to support you, and I knew you were done. It was a really hard time.
Yeah, and I think there were so many different emotions, and like I said, I'm sure I know some other people, because I have kind of talked about this moment for me, but again, it was a moment, and for me, I've done a lot of different things in life. I've had a lot of opportunities, whether it was with work or any other kind of ventures where there's been ups and downs, and you really you have to just keep moving forward. And just stopping is not an option. And I think the things that I remember thinking in that moment were almost a relief too. It was like, you do all these things, you become so disciplined and taking tests and going to the doctors, going to, supervisor and saying, hey, like, can I get off here to go to this appointment? And for me, it's like 2 weeks ago, I had to go and do the same thing.
Yeah, I think people do forget that that's a big thing. Like you kind of have to tell your job things, but not tell your job thing. Yeah. It's every area of your life consumes you for a time.
So much of your life is wrapped up into this, and depending on how long you've been trying, I mean, that could be years. It is a cycle, because you try something new, you wait and see, it doesn't work, you have to grieve, you move forward, you try something else, or you try the same thing again. Like, it's just, it gets exhausting and tiring. So I remember walking out being like, okay, finally, I can put this behind me and move on with my life. And I remember the analogy that I kind of had thought up in my head, because one thing I think you even coming out would have been like, okay, well, like, let's adopt, or let's do, those were some of the ideas that I know that were in your head. But the thing that was for me was, again, I'm not an animal person, as far as we don't have pets or anything like that. But I feel like a pet owner would relate to this. So let us know.
Understand.
Let us know.
There's a lot of animal levels.
I imagine if you have a dog and it runs away, like day one, the moment that you realize that dog is gone, you're out looking, you're searching, you're driving around the neighborhood, you're going, posting up stuff on social media, maybe the papers on the power lines and stuff like that. Day two, you're doing the same kind of thing. 3 days, 4 days later, like you're still looking around, asking neighbors. You get to a week, you're probably still, okay, everybody, be on the lookout. But then once it gets to like, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, it gets to a point, I would say even like 2 months later. Again, I don't know how long animals just be going out there. It gets to a point where you have to say, okay, this animal is gone. Like, it's not coming back. And when you get to that point, maybe you can, but I feel like for me, it wouldn't be able to just be like, all right, let's go get another one. It's like,
you need that time to heal.
All of the wait and the time and the searching and just realizing what you have just lost. And that you're not getting it back. And it's gone. I think that was the moment for me, and it was like, okay, finally, I can move on with my life. I can plan my life as it's going to be. And it was like a future without, having kids.
Were there any lies that like crept in for you? Because I know some did for me.
I think that was the one part of the way that I like cope with it, to move on with myself. And I think also just, I don't want to, well, we are going to talk about this in the episode where we really dig into healing and stuff like that. But I think something that had been growing in my heart, and I think maybe the Lord was even preparing me for, is just that we all get to experience different things in life. And for me, maybe it wasn't children. And I kind of started to come to terms with that towards the end of that. And I think like your question of, wait, what was the question?
Like lies.
Oh, yes.
Lies that creep in.
On the opposite side, the ways that it was more of a struggle is that probably when you get news like that, and I'm saying as a guy, my head start to wonder towards like, here's this, awesome woman who would make an awesome mom. Man, I wish that, I'm not going to say I wish, but the idea of maybe you could be where you want to be in life if you weren't with me. Like if you could have been with somebody else, like you could get the things that like you won't.
Yeah.
And it's almost, it's like, yeah, it's my fault you don't have, kids, a great, thing in life. And I think that's one of the things that really I thought about, and it started taking a toll.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. I was like, I know you'd be an incredible dad, and if you were with somebody else, like it was like we both had less than ideal medical history or whatever, but it was like if we both were with somebody strong in that way, more fertile, then we probably could have kids. And that is not from the Lord at all. God has given you your spouse. God has given me you, and it's not from him. But that was a very real thing that consistently, I think, definitely crept in my head too. Yeah, and had to fight against it with a lot of prayer.
I was going to ask, but I feel like that's kind of in that direction. Really, on the other side of that, what is something helpful that you needed to hear during that time that maybe somebody else could benefit from hearing today?
Yeah. I think a big thing is just like taking time to like sit with your spouse. You can do this with friends too, but start it with your spouse, especially. I needed him to hold me. I needed you to hold me. I needed you to cry with me or just let me cry. And I know that there was anger, and I think that we did not always do a good job of that, where there was a lot of times where it felt like our dreams of marriage and family began to cripple. And so I think that take time to sit with your spouse, talk with your spouse, learn what brings them joy, because they need that right now, because there was so much excitement for children and now there's a transition. So pray together, read the Bible together. There's so many like biblical truths in the Bible. And so sometimes just going to Psalms or Proverbs or, just reading things in the Bible to encourage one another and fight back on some of the lies that like creep in.
Yeah. And also do it we have alluded to this, in community. Like,
yes,
have some people in your corner who can speak truth from the outside. Because it can be hard to do that when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And you need people who know you, who care about you, who love you, who can speak in and tell you the truth, or people who can just speak in and give you encouragement.
Yeah.
And at this point, we did have people who were encouraging us and telling us things, whether we wanted to hear it or not. It was the truth.
Yeah.
And it pointed us in the right direction. We didn't fall apart. Like we kept moving forward, because at some points we were relying on the Lord, but also it wasn't just us on our own.
Yeah.
And you can really get to a place where you start thinking some crazy things. So that is the encouragement of that. And also don't become enemies with your spouse. Like, work together. You're both going to deal with it in different ways, because for me and my personality, when some of this hard stuff hit, I'm sure some people can relate with this. Every single month, when, women get the same reminder every month that they're not pregnant, my tendency was just to be like, hey, it's okay. Like, we got to keep it moving. Like, keep it moving. And some of those times I should have just stopped and just, like you said, sat with you. Mm-hmm. And, hey, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Like, and I could have done, and granted, there is also probably on the other side of that where it's like, no, you need somebody to be like, no, keep going. And then the same kind of thing at the end, like me dealing with a loss myself, but also helping you like deal with that loss. And for encouragement for somebody not dealing with infertility, and maybe somebody, or you come across that, or it can be a situation you don't have any idea about. Really, the best thing to do is to just be ready to be there for those people. Because with us, on the day we found this out, there's nothing that somebody could have said to make it better or to fix it.
Right.
Like, we didn't need to hear it's okay. Like, you're gonna get pregnant. Like, don't worry about that. What we needed is just somebody to just, they didn't even have to say anything, just to come and sit.
Yeah.
And just, hey, I'm here. If you need something, I'm here. Sometimes that's all it is. But sometimes we want to help people how we want to help them instead of helping them how they need to be helped. So that would be the encouragement, not just with that, but if with anything in life, we can always be there for people. But we actually have to be willing to be able to be there in the way that they need it, in a healthy way. Don't let, make sure that it's in truth and love. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
I think that kind of, with all of that being said, that takes us to probably a time where we were at one of the lowest in our marriage.
Yeah.
But there is hope for us. That the couple that we're talking about, the Emily and Tony of that year, like, there's definitely hope and encouragement. And
it won't be that way forever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is us talking about us in the past.
Yeah.
We want to talk about really just the idea of just saying, hey, we need help, and what that looked like. We went and got counseling. We really open the door to talk to families, say, hey, this is what we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. We just need prayer and just, help us to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And then there were also some outside resources that, some books and things that really helped us. But I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, just one kind of quick, maybe even takeaway is to, for a time, I encourage people who want to kind of move towards trying for children, be diligent for a time, and then the other thing is, during this time, pursue each other. Don't forget about each other. Don't use each other. It can feel sometimes like, when you're trying for a while, it's just like, oh, okay. Oh, time to have sex, and it's like, you will feel that at times. But don't forget that this is like your spouse, the one who loves you more than anyone. And so even if you get kids out of it, great, but those kids are going to grow up and they're going to move out and you are left with your spouse. So it is so important to nurture that, go on dates, get out, get away from the routine, laugh together, watch a comedy, pray together, read the Bible together. It is so important. And especially in this season, of trying. So that's what I would say about that.
And I second that thing about being diligent and trying. Really, we were able to get help and really nail down what the issues were. Like I said earlier, because we had the data, they want you to try for a year. So be serious about taking the time where you're trying to do all that you can to get it figured out, to get it worked out, to get the data, to use some of the tools and methods that we talked about, so that when you do go to the doctor, you're not wasting time or resources or money. That is the thing that I would say about that. So again, we thank you for really taking the time to listen to us rant. But on a serious note, we do appreciate you taking the time to just hear our story.
Yeah, we do.
And again, we hope that this does help somebody, that it helps a couple. Continue to put stuff in the comments. People read them, and I think that they're encouraged by it. We're encouraged by it. And I guess we will see you and talk to you on the next one.
See ya.
All right, y'all.
Bye.